Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ramble Rousing. This time I am not the only MTG show that has thoughts about universes beyond, but I am still your host Ethan, bringing with me a not exactly new topic in the world of Magic. I feel like I have to ride this wave of discourse now, since it is the hot topic that will get me clicks. But also, I do have my own personal thoughts about universes beyond that I do want to get out there to the world so that people can judge me online. So let's start with where I stand in all this UB discourse. Here is just my official stance. I think Universes Beyond is a cool concept that is fun and good for Magic's growth. But, and this is a huge but, the current rate at which we are getting UB sets and the intellectual properties that they're choosing from are just straight up not good. And I am in large at disagreement with that aspect of UB, and kind of at this point in time I'm getting into having disagreements with UB as a whole. Okay, so with that said, I think it'll be good for me to tackle the first part of my statement, which is the highlights of UB, what I like about UB. I will acknowledge my bias with some of the previous Universes Beyond. I am a huge fan of properties like Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings, which I think tints my lens in a favorable light, especially, the older UBs that they've already published. Both of these sets were also highly successful, so it's really easy to look at these Universes Beyond sets and see the success story and try to latch onto it. Both Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings fit in this fantasy setting. They had fun mechanics, they had recognizable characters to us as players. So when I think of good UB sets that add to Magic, that help the game as a whole, I think of these sets. This type of set design is really what I wanted to see from UB going forward. It's what my expectations for UB were. It is when I think of a core UB set from Magic, these are the sets that I would have thought of. Of course, now that we're a few months down the line, a few years down the line even, from some of these sets, we can start to see the bad parts of UB. As of recording this video, a lot of the UB sets that people are upset about, and a lot of the sets that I'm going to be talking about haven't been released yet. So, I'm not really able to talk about the success, or more likely failure, of those unreleased sets. But I do want to highlight how unsuccessful I thought Spiderman was as a set. I don't have any sales data or any data-driven metric at all, but what I do have is just the player experience, talking to the people around me. I can still tell, even without all of those metrics, how unenthused people were about this set. I could see, I went to a pre-release, there was, outside of my friend group, the attendance for that pre-release was very, very small, when a bunch of older, in-universe sets had a huge pre-release. And it sucked, because I actually thought the mechanics and design of this set felt very, very good, in terms of, the limited play. It was a lot of fun to play limited, with the mechanics that they created. But outside of that one light for this UB set, Spiderman just really felt dead to me, and I'm sure other people are starting to feel the same, especially now that we have a bunch of these other Universes Beyond sets announced, going all the way into next year. Unfortunately, I really do feel like a lot of these other Universes Beyond sets will be following down the same path that Spider-Man did. I have high hopes for Avatar. It's a very beloved IP. A lot of the people that I've talked to are really excited for Avatar. So I think Avatar might be a good blip in this kind of line of really unfortunate UB releases. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Marvel, I have a good feeling both of those sets are gonna really flop big time. Then looking further, Hobbit, Star Trek, both of those IPs I think are more in line with the Magic community. That being said, having those two at the very end of next year, after Marvel and after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and one of them is technically an extra set, so to speak, I think everyone's going to just be tired out of UB to even really care. Now, I will admit that I'm not really a fan of a majority of these IPs. I like Avatar, I like Hobbit, but out of all of these that have been announced, those are the only two that I really care for. So it's easy for me to say that these sets will be flopping when I personally don't care about them at all. But if, any of the discourse that I see online is to be believed, and you should definitely believe everything you read online, obviously, a lot of the people in the Magic community feel the same way. I feel like I am an echo chamber of many of the thoughts that other people have already expressed about the influx of UB, and I don't really want to be that. Yes, I do think we should not be having more Universes Beyond than in-universe sets. Yes, I think there's a major issue with a bunch of these IPs that they're choosing from. Yes, 7 is too many sets to release in 1 year. I do think other formats, Standard, Commander, whatever format you're thinking of, it's gonna be fucked over by power creep. It's all true, and Magic is probably just gonna go down this spiral, especially next year in 2026, if it hasn't already. I remember sitting in the preview panel at MagicCon Atlanta and just hearing the crickets in the audience when they announced Marvel superheroes and Star Trek, and that feeling fucking sucked. So what now? I feel like I rejoined Magic in this shitty time where Hasbro has already decided to kill the game that I enjoy for money. And now I'm hearing all this negative talk online, and you see it in a bunch of videos, right? A bunch of people online, on YouTube, on Twitter, just like I'm doing here, are talking down upon all this stuff. And people are turning away from the game, more and more day by day. As most things in life, I don't really have a good answer. But if there's anything that I try to do, I always try to look at things positively, for one, but then also objectively, or as objectively as I can. My hope is WotC is listening to the player base now about their thoughts on UB. These sets always take years to develop into a releasable product, so I imagine that many of the sets that we're seeing now have at least been in development for a while. This does mean that we might not see any changes to UB, the Universes Beyond issue, for possibly a couple of years, but I'm hoping that whatever sets are being developed right now are being developed with all of this player feedback in mind. I took a survey today for the Spiderman set, and I just kind of gave my honest opinions on the set. As much as like I said, I love the mechanics of the set, but the characters, the story, the lore, the IP they chose just didn't really hit for me. And I said so on the survey. I strongly encourage you, if you haven't taken a survey before, and you're watching this video now, go ahead and start taking some of those Magic surveys, because it's a way for us as players to express how we feel about the game. I'll go ahead and put the survey link for the Spider-Man set survey down in the description. I'm not sure how long these surveys stay open for, but assuming you're watching this somewhat after I post it, the survey link should last hopefully for a couple days. Go give, Wizards of the Coast your thoughts, because I think the only way that we can instigate some sort of change is by making ourselves heard as much as we can. So yeah, I always do these surveys at the very end of every set, and I encourage everyone to do the same, because it's a great way for us to sound out how we feel about certain sets. Finally, I wanted to close with some sort of positive light. There are still parts of Magic that I am excited about and will always look forward to and enjoy. My love for this game and playing this game has not diminished, and I think a lot of the people that have made videos, a lot of the content creators that have made videos on this topic, do so for the same reasons, right? They love the game and they don't want to see it fall like it feels like it is right now. There are 30 plus years of wonderful cards that have been printed, and I haven't even scratched the surface of all of those old cards and what is out there that the game has to offer. I'm excited about new stuff too. I'm really excited to go back to Strixhaven. If you haven't watched my little series on collecting all the Strixhaven Mystical Archive cards, go check it out here on YouTube. It's here. I love Strixhaven as a setting, and I'm super happy that they're going back. It's one of my favorite settings. It has the old Strixhaven set has some of my favorite card treatments out there. So there's stuff to be excited about. There is a lot of Magic out there, and I will always want for things to get better, especially when they're at their worst. But even while things are at the worst, I want to try my best to not let my light die out for this game that I enjoy. And so this video is as much of an encouragement to myself as it is to the people out there that might be listening, that yes, sometimes it can feel like Magic just fucking sucks. But I encourage everyone to look. Magic is such a big game. Look for the things that you enjoy and latch onto those and remember why you enjoy them in the first place.